Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Banachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I wonder if there's more in Bhakti Vallabha Maharaj's book.
Oh, there's more than that?
Well, there's a book about Mahaprabhu's Parishads up to the modern day, written by Bhakti Vallabha Maharaj, where he draws from many sources.
Okay.
So let me take a quick look.
All right.
Press pause. I don't have in Honolulu, I usually look on the calendar in the Pujari room to see what's coming up, but come on, I'm supposed to do what I say.
Oh, so you got to look at what's it break fast.
Pardon?
Today's the day of Akadashi, break fast by 10:58. I think we can do it.
I have a pretty hard stop anyway because I've got stuff going on in Honolulu that I need to make some phone calls about right away. Okay. Oh, that's not right. Govinda Ghosh. Oh, not so much. Oh, maybe. Oh. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Plot twist. So this morning we'll hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 15, Parshuram, the Lord's warrior incarnation. And we've seen now he's running around with his parashu, his axe. Going to be a little whacking going on here. But first, in a different mood, today is the which? Disappearance. So the Tirobhava, the anniversary of the Tirobhava, of disappearance of Govinda Ghosh Thakur. And this, this is, I see, this is the Samadhi's book. Cool. So I've got two sources here. One is Mahanidhi Swami / Madan Gopal Babaji's, Das Babaji's book about the Samadhis of Vrindavan. And then there's a book by Bhakti Vallabha Maharaj. He was the disciple of one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Bhakti Dayita Madhava Maharaj. And he compiled a book on Lord Chaitanya, called Sri Chaitanya and His Associates. Devotees kind of refer to it as the Parishads book. And it goes all the way up to Srila Prabhupada and, of course, B.D. Madhava Maharaj as well. But so he's got a little bit more than Mahanidhi Maharaj has. So Sri Govinda Ghosh was known for his sweet kirtans at the annual Jagannath Rathayatra festival. He and his two brothers, Vasudeva and Madhava, are eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya and Sri Nityananda. The Lord would immediately begin dancing whenever the Ghosh brothers would sing. The Ghosh brothers preached throughout their lives with music and song. Since he had no children, Govinda wondered who would perform his funeral rites. Sri Gopinath, Govinda Ghosh's deity, appeared in a dream promising that he himself would do everything. Still today, the Gopinath deity arranges for the Tirobhava Mahotsava, disappearance day festival of his pure devotee, Govinda Ghosh. As Kalavati Sakhi, Govinda Ghosh sings sweetly for Radha Govindaji in Goloka Vrindavan. His samadhi is in the 64 samadhis area. And here's Tirtha Maharaj's. So he has, his category is the Ghosh brothers. So that would be Govinda Ghosh, Vasudeva Ghosh, and Madhava Ghosh. Not so coincidentally, an old friend and godbrother of mine, Premarnava, and his wife Jayashri, who was one of the very, very first devotees, even before me, to join in Hawaii, they had three sons named Vasudeva Ghosh, Govinda Ghosh, and Abhaya. Abhaya Charan, I think. I think many of us were surprised when we thought, oh, it's not Madhava Ghosh? Might have even brought that up with Prem, I'm not sure. So he says, Govinda, Madhavananda, and Vasudeva were gopis in Braja, namely Kalavati, Rasolasa, and Gunatunga, who used to sing the songs composed by Vishaka. These three Ghosh brothers were born in an upper-class Kayastha family from northern Rarha. They hailed from Agra Dweep. All three were singers famed for the sweetness of their voices. And then he cites Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. The meritorious Madhava Ghosh devoted himself to kirtan. There was no singer on earth who was his equal. It was said of him that he was a singer from Vrindavan. Okay, so let's fast forward to Govinda Ghosh. Govinda Ghosh is counted among Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal branches. Eventually, he made his home in Agradweep, Vasudeva in Tamluk, and Madhava Ghosh in Dainhat. Govinda Ghosh Thakur's house is not far from Agradweep, in Kashipur, Vishnutala. Some are of the opinion that Vishnutala was his birthplace. Govinda Ghosh participated in Mahaprabhu's Leelas in Srivas Angan. So that means he was very select among Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates, because this was not an open program. These were closed programs. During the Rath Yatra, so he participated in Mahaprabhu's Leelas in Srivasangan, in the Nagar Sankirtan to the Kazi's house, and in the house of Raghava Pandit, also very intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya's. During the Rath Yatra festival, he was the lead singer in the 4th Kirtan group, accompanied by his 2 brothers, by Chota Haridas, Vishnudas, Raghava Pandit, Vakreshwara Pandit. Also, Vakreshwara Pandit joined this group as a principal dancer. On Mahaprabhu's direction, Govinda revealed the Gopinath deity from a black stone in Agradweep. Mahaprabhu also instructed him to get married. There's a legend that Govinda Ghosh's wife and son both died untimely. As he grew older, Govinda began to wonder who would perform his last rites, as it is considered important to have a son who can do the Shraddha ceremony on one's behalf. Govinda had a dream in which Gopinath appeared to him and said, "Don't worry about this. I will perform the Shraddha ceremony for you myself." When Govinda Ghosh left this world, Gopinath was true to his word and offered his pinda. Gopinath continues to perform this ceremony every year on the anniversary of Govinda Ghosh's departure from the world. This takes place on the waning moon, Krishna Dvadasi, of the month of Chaitra. And then he has a couple of songs written by Govinda Ghosh. So, anyway. Okay, now down to today's business. So, we have a bunch of verses to read. So I'll read just the translations and the purports as they come up. Starting with text 27. Text 27, thereafter, Kartavirya Arjuna, having left with Kamadhenu, Parashuram returned to the ashram. When Parashuram, the youngest son of Jamadagni, heard about Kartavirya Arjuna's nefarious deed, he became as angry as a trampled snake. Anyone ever step? I'm guessing no one here has ever stepped on a rattlesnake. I've had one strike at me. I remember, this is back in the 80s when I was living at Bhaktivedanta village. I was out for a run and I was running along this flume that ran through the property. It was a Bureau of Land Management flume, I guess to feed the irrigation down in the Central Valley for our agriculture there. And as I was running along the flume, I saw a juvenile rattlesnake coiled right next to the path. And as I was running by, it struck out at me. And so I dodged it, which meant falling into the flume, getting scraped up and stuff. So that's not something you want to mess with, trampled snake. I wasn't even going to bother this character, but and the thing about juvenile rattlesnakes, they haven't learned yet to regulate the venom when they bite. So they shoot their whole wad when they bite rather than, so it would have been really scary. Taking up his fierce chopper, his Parashum, therefore he's Parashurama. His shield, his bow, and a quiver of arrows. Lord Parashurama, exceedingly angry, chased Kartavira Arjuna just as a lion chases an elephant. As King Kartavira Arjuna entered his capital, Mahishmatipuri, he saw Lord Parashuram, the best of the Bhrigu dynasty, coming after him, holding a chopper, shield, bow, and arrows. Lord Parashuram was covered with a black deerskin, and his matted locks of hair appeared like the sunshine. Here's yet another instance in the Bhagavatam where someone is described as apparently as having golden dreadlocks, golden jata. Here it's described as yutam jatabihi, locks of hair, dadrshe, arkadamabhi yutam jatabhi. Anyone know of someone else who is described in the Bhagavatam as having golden jata or dreadlocks? Pardon? Lord Shiva, in I think one place, yeah, although we don't generally think of him like that, and Narada Muni. So I used to figure when I would go surfing down here, I would see all these cars with Lion of Judah stickers, red, what is it, red, yellow, and green, Lion of Judah, Ja Rules stickers, and those are all white boys with dreadlocks who are surfers. And I thought, we should have depictions of Narada Muni with golden dreadlocks. Might catch some of these fellows' attention. Upon seeing Parashurama, Kartavira Arjuna immediately feared him and sent many elephants, chariots, horses, and infantry soldiers equipped with clubs, swords, arrows, rishtis, shatagnis, shaktis, and many other similar weapons to fight against him. And they're not even, those aren't translated in the word to word. Kartavira Arjuna sent 17 full akshohinis of soldiers to check Parashurama, but Lord Parashurama alone killed all of them. Srila Prabhupada has a purport, and in it he cites 8.5 verses from Mahabharata. I'm going to skip the Sanskrit. He includes the Sanskrit. I'm going to skip the Sanskrit and just read the translation. So Srila Prabhupada's purport. The word Akshohini refers to a military phalanx consisting of 21,870 chariots and elephants, 109,350 infantry soldiers, and 65,610 horses. An exact description is given in the Mahabharata Adi Parva, 2nd chapter, as follows. 1 chariot, 1 elephant, 5 infantry soldiers, and 3 horses are called a patti by those who are learned in the science. The wise also know that a sena mukha is 3 times what a patti is. 3 sena mukhas is known as 1 gulma. 3 gulmas are called a guna, and 3 gunas are called a vahini. 3 vahinis have been referred to by the learned as a purtana. 3 purtanas equal 1 chamu, and 3 chamus equal 1 anikani. The wise refer to 10 anikanis as 1 akshohini. The chariots of an akshohini have been calculated at 21,870 by those who know the science of such calculations, O best of the twice born, and the number of elephants is the same. The number of infantry soldiers is 109,350, and the number of horses is 65,610. This is called an akshohini. That's what Lord Parshuram dealt with single-handedly. Lord Parshuram, being expert in killing the military strength of the enemy, worked with the speed of the mind and the wind, slicing his enemies with his chopper, his parashu. Wherever he went, the enemies fell, their legs, arms, and shoulders being severed, their chariot drivers killed, and their carriers, the elephants and horses, all annihilated. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In the beginning, when the army of the enemy was full of fighting soldiers, elephants, and horses, Lord Parashurama proceeded into their midst at the speed of the mind to kill them. When somewhat tired, he slowed down to the speed of wind and continued to kill the enemies vigorously. The speed of the mind is greater than the speed of the wind. Text 32. By manipulating his axe and arrows, Lord Parashurama cut to pieces the shields, flags, bows, and bodies of Kartavirya Arjuna's soldiers, who fell on the battlefield, muddying the ground with their blood. Seeing these reverses, Kartavirya Arjuna, infuriated, rushed to the battlefield. Then Kartavirya Arjuna, with his 1,000 arms, simultaneously fixed arrows on 500 bows to kill Lord Parshuram. But Lord Parshuram, the best of fighters, released enough arrows with only one bow to cut to pieces immediately the arrows and bows in the hands of Kartavirya Arjuna. Text 34, when his arrows were cut to pieces, Kartavirya Arjuna uprooted many trees and hills with his own hands, and again rushed strongly toward Lord Parashurama to kill him. But Parashurama then used his axe with great force to cut off Kartavirya Arjuna's arms, just as one might lop off the heads of a serpent. Thereafter, text 36, thereafter Parashurama cut off the mountain peak. Thereafter Lord Parshuram cut off like a mountain peak the head of Kartavirya Arjuna, who had already lost his arms. When Kartavirya Arjuna's 10,000 sons saw their father killed, they all fled in fear. Then Parashurama, having killed the enemy, released the Kamadhenu, which had undergone great suffering, and brought it back with its calf to his residence, where he gave it to his father Jamadagni. Parashuram described to his father and brothers his activities in killing Kartavirya Arjuna. Upon hearing of these deeds, Jamadagni spoke to his son as follows. And as I read this, I got a picture in my mind of, him sitting there entertaining his family with his exploits. And that reminded me of sometimes of course, this is probably what happened in the evening after a battle. And the guys from both armies would probably sit around together telling stories about how heroic they were. And that you have the stories of fishermen telling lies about the size of the fish they caught. And before I became a devotee, my friends and I would get together sometimes in the evenings, and we would tell stories about the waves we caught, complete with hand stuff, off the lip, and all this anyway. So it just kind of made a nice picture to me. So this is Jamadagni speaking to his son Parashuram. Congratulating him? Maybe, maybe not. Oh, great hero, my dear son Parashuram, you have unnecessarily killed the king, who is supposed to be the embodiment of all the demigods. Thus, you have committed a sin. My dear son, we are all Brāhmaṇas and have become worshipable for the people in general because of our quality of forgiveness. It is because of this quality that Lord Brahma, the supreme spiritual master of this universe, has achieved his post. Text 40. Kshamaya rochate Lakshmir. Kshamaya rochate Lakshmir. Brahmi Sauri Yata Prabha. Brahmi Sauri Yata Prabha. Kshaminam Ashu Bhagavangs. Kshaminam Ashu Bhagavangs. Tushyate Harir Ishvara. Tushyate Harir Ishvara. I think because of the time, and it's an Anustub verse, we can others can chant now. Any Vaishnavis? And anyone online? What's the lag? Okay. Word to word. Kshamaya, simply by forgiving. Rochate, becomes pleasing. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Brahmi, in connection with Brahminical qualifications. Sauri, the sun god. Yatha, as. Prabha, the sunshine. Kshaminam, unto the Brāhmaṇas, who are so forgiving. Ashu, very soon. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tushyate, becomes pleased. Hari, the Lord. Ishvara, the Supreme Controller. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The duty of a Brāhmaṇa is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiving. Responsively, please. The duty of a Brāhmaṇa is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiving. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Different personalities become beautiful by possessing different qualities. Chanakya Pandit says that the cuckoo bird, although very black, is beautiful because of its sweet voice. Similarly, a woman becomes beautiful by her chastity and faithfulness to her husband, and an ugly person becomes beautiful when he becomes a learned scholar. In the same way, Brāhmaṇas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras become beautiful by their qualities. Brāhmaṇas are beautiful when they are forgiving. Kshatriyas when they are heroic and never retreat from fighting. Vaishyas when they enrich cultural activities and protect cows. And Shudras when they are faithful in the discharge of duties pleasing to their masters. Thus, everyone becomes beautiful by his special qualities. And the special quality of the Brāhmana, as described here, is forgiveness. Om Jnanatimirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukhaṁ Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svafadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatide Shatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. The duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiving. So I found it notable that Srila Prabhupada really emphasizes the importance of this quality in his purport. He cites those the different qualities of the four different varnas, and then ends by underscoring everything, highlighting, shining Klieg lights on this very important quality. And we see this listed in the 16th chapter, beginning of the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The chapter mostly discusses demoniac qualities, but it's called divine and demoniac qualities. So Krishna starts by enumerating, I think it's 26 divine qualities. So I just thought I'd take a minute to share those verses, just because it's forgiveness is kind of buried there. It's at the beginning of the 3rd verse. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Abhayam Sattva Sang Shuddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavastitihi Danam Damas Yogyascha Svajayas Tapa Arjavam Ahingsang Satyamakrodhas Tyaga Shantir Apaishunam Daya Bhuteshu Aloluptvam Mardavam Hrir Achapalam Teja Kshama, forgiveness, Dhriti Shaucham Adroho Natimanita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, nonviolence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy, and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharat, belong to godly men endowed with the divine nature. And also, we see in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that Kshanti is it's not Kshama this time, but it's Kshanti, which Srila Prabhupada translates as tolerance. And then again, in the 17th chapter of the 11th canto, when the qualities of the Brāhmaṇas are listed by Krishna to Uddhava, again, Kshanti is there. And Srila Prabhupada sometimes equates tolerance and forgiveness. In other words, the ability to let things go. And in his purport to these first three verses of the 16th chapter, Srila Prabhupada mentions Kshama in passing, actually, in connection, I think, with Tejas. So he says Tejas is this power on the battlefield, heroism on the battlefield, and forgiveness means being able to let small infractions, small offenses go. That doesn't preclude taking action when there are great offenses. But Jamadagni didn't consider this a terrible offense. Oh, the phone calls are starting. He didn't consider this a terrible offense, this stealing of the Kamadhenu. However, we see back in the 4th canto, when King Vena was riding rampant over the rights of his citizens and kind of taking everything for himself, and shutting down sacrifice even. Everything was meant should be meant for him. This was his attitude. The Brāhmaṇas did rise up, and they killed him with those high-sounding words. They killed him with sound, and then they repaired it by cloning the good DNA, in a sense, to create King Prithu, who showed us what it means to be a ruler, what it means to be a leader. It means you're so responsive to the needs of your constituents that he was willing to even threaten Mother Earth because she was reluctant to release her bounty for the good of the praja, of Prithu's constituents. So that's there. However, this forgiveness is something that I think was prominent. We can see prominent in Srila Prabhupada's character. And these are all well-known instances, so I'm not going to be shy about naming names. Back in 67, 68, just after Srila Prabhupada gave Kirtanananda sannyas, Prabhupada gave him instruction. He gave him sannyas in Vrindavan, and then he told him to go to England and preach. And he did something different. Instead of going to England, he went back to New York, and he started dismantling all that Srila Prabhupada had been trying to do with the devotees in New York. Told them they didn't have to wear sikas and tilak or dhotis or any of that stuff. And when Srila Prabhupada heard what was going on, he shut it down, and he kicked him out. Now, later, when Kirtanananda and Hayagriva had gotten this property in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, they approached Srila Prabhupada with contrition. And when that happened, Srila Prabhupada accepted them and what became New Vrindavan. And as far as I know, never said a word about that again. I don't find any record of Srila Prabhupada ever bringing up that behavior by Kirtanananda. And that wasn't a little thing. It caused a huge disruption in this very new, still just starting to find its feet International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Later, a couple of years later, in August of 1970, at a Janmashtami Vyasa Puja festival that was a North American temple, that was also a North American temple president's meeting, 4 of our godbrothers who had just taken sannyas from Srila Prabhupada a couple of months before. Pardon? They were the first sannyasis aside from Kirtanananda. And they were all prominent devotees. We know their names. I don't need to say their names. We know their names. These devotees, you know, they were superstars for those of us who were in ISKCON at that time. They were legend. But because perhaps out of a desire to glorify Srila Prabhupada, they actually over-glorified Srila Prabhupada by saying at Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja that he was Krishna. That Srila Sakshad Taritvena Samasta Shastra, right? We sing that every morning. And that caused a huge disruption. It was big. And this was just after Srila Prabhupada had left the U.S. And Srila Prabhupada immediately took action and kicked the 4 of them out of ISKCON. Told them to go. There are different things you hear about it, but sometimes you hear, I heard just recently, and I hadn't heard this for 56 years. This was the first time I heard it. Maybe I heard this in Mayapur from someone, that he told them to, I don't want to hear from you until you've opened 10 temples. But he sent them out with nothing, and barefoot, maybe even. And they wandered, and, so because of that, we have this community in Gainesville, in Alachua County in Florida, north central Florida. Frankly, middle of nowhere Florida. The only thing that really existed of any consequence there was the University of Florida and its connected hospital and a VA hospital, but it was just kind of nowhere. There's this huge, thriving community of Vaishnavas there. And one went to Texas and opened some centers in Texas, and therefore, we have some devotees, including a couple of really cool artists, wonderful sculptors, Murti and Adideva, and other things. But when, one by one, each of them approached Srila Prabhupada to apologize, that was it. I don't remember hearing about that from Srila Prabhupada. I haven't seen any record of Srila Prabhupada ever mentioning it again. And then later, a couple of devotees, my own temple president in GBC in Hawaii, gave up his service, closed down all the temples. And Srila Prabhupada said that actually the devotees who found themselves sort of cast adrift by that, they weren't responsible for leaving ISKCON, that it was the leaders, our temple president and a couple of sannyasis who made that happen. This was their responsibility. And then a couple of years after that, one very prominent sannyasi, Madhudvisha Maharaj, left ISKCON. He was having difficulties with maintaining his sannyas vows. And however, when each of those devotees, when Gaur-Sundar came to Vrindavan in the fall of '77 to see Srila Prabhupada, it was all actually even before that. Gaur-Sundar went to see Srila Prabhupada twice in Honolulu. The first time, Prabhupada was very conciliatory, and Gaur-Sundar was a little reticent, a little standoffish. But the next time Gaur-Sundar went, Srila Prabhupada gave it to him with both barrels. And Gaur-Sundar surrendered. And as I remember hearing, I was living on the Big Island myself at the time, and I remember hearing that he called the devotees at the farm and he said, sell your truck, sell whatever you got to do, get a ticket, come to Honolulu and see Srila Prabhupada. And that was, after that, Prabhupada had nothing to say, nothing but praise for Gaur-Sundar. And also Madhuvisa, about at the same time, right around the same time, came to Vrindavan. And Gaur-Sundar shaved his head and came to see Srila Prabhupada. Madhuvisa shaved his head and came to see Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada immediately forgave everything. He was so overwhelmed by seeing them come with contrition, with nothing but love, that he was in tears to see them. And I remember hearing that he kept rubbing Gaur-Sundar's head, and then later when Madhuvisa was there, he was rubbing Madhuvisa's head. He was just so happy to see his boys back again. So this is the quality of forgiveness, a quality of tolerance and forgiveness. We're able to let things go and just move on because we have business to do. Okay, I will entertain brief discussion, but I have to go make calls. Yes, Dravida Prabhu.
To what you mentioned about those four sannyasis, my understanding is that they first went together to Michigan, and I think in the Detroit area, or maybe Ann Arbor. And it's a long story, but they met the future Indra Swami there and his wife. You heard that? And they had an apartment, and they let them stay there. And then, no, they didn't have anyone to stay. They were staying out on the street or on the lawn somewhere. And so they came across them, and they were able to stay in that apartment, which was they had left, and it was anyway. It worked out that they preached to Indra, and he became Indra Swami eventually. He was married, of course, for a while.
Maybe we can confirm that with Kripalani.
Oh yeah, you'll definitely confirm.
Yeah. I remember having heard that now that you mention it, yeah. Anything else?
When Prabhupada first met Gaur-Sundar after he did what he did, was Gaur-Sundar... When Prabhupada first met Gaur-Sundar after he did what he did, was Gaur-Sundar immediately apologetic to Srila Prabhupada? And then, you're saying Prabhupada didn't correct him at that time, but then he kind of corrected him the second time.
Yeah.
More so
That's how I understood it. I wasn't there.
I see.
And the person I heard it from, I'm not sure how that person heard, because as far as I understand, it was probably just, this is the way Srila Prabhupada worked. It would have been just Gaur-Sundar and Srila Prabhupada in the room. Maybe a secretary, but my experience was that before that, when we were my former wife and I had a mission to Peru that was actually instructed by Srila Prabhupada. Sanctioned. It was I was given this mission by Gaur-Sundar, who was the GBC for Hawaii and South America at the time. And then I ran into what I often refer to as the buzzsaw of ISKCON politics when I got to Mexico City. And so I came back to double check with Srila Prabhupada, and he arranged to have a private meeting with my wife and me. And he excused all the bigs, the GBC secretaries, the personal servants, everybody. He told them that they were excused from the room, and he asked that they please close the door behind them, and he met with us alone for almost 2 hours. So my guess would be that Gaur-Sundar was alone with Srila Prabhupada in the room. And I don't remember actually asking Gaur-Sundar directly about that afterwards, because I didn't want to bring it up. Our friendship was more important than whatever happened back then. And his service, Srila Prabhupada showed this another time. There was a devotee named Aniruddha, and he's told this story himself, so I actually feel happy to share this. Aniruddha, this is 1974. Srila Prabhupada, this is in July of 74, Srila Prabhupada made a brief visit to Honolulu. And Aniruddha had been living there. He was an old devotee from New York, and apparently went to LA with Dayananda and Nandarani, and one of the very first devotees to help establish ISKCON in Los Angeles. And so Aniruddha was not doing so great at the time. My wife and I would sometimes see him when we would, when the deities would be resting. That would be we were the head pujaris. And so our chance to kind of unwind, to catch our breath a little bit, was in the afternoon when the deities were resting. We would go to a beach in town and swim, and we would often run into Aniruddha there. So we spent a lot of time with Aniruddha, although he didn't come to the temple much. And when Srila Prabhupada came for those couple of days, he didn't come around at all. He was probably feeling a little embarrassed. So in the middle, we were sitting in the airport, and Satsarup Maharaj was reading headlines about ISKCON from around the world to Srila Prabhupada. And all of a sudden, Prabhupada stopped him and he said, "I've heard our Aniruddha is here in Hawaii, but he hasn't come to see me." And someone said, "Well, you know, he's not doing very well. He's probably embarrassed, you know." Prabhupada. And then I think I chimed in, "Well, actually, he's here, and he's outside the lobby with the kirtan party." And Prabhupada immediately said, "Oh, he may come inside. There is no difficulty." So one of the devotees went out to bring Aniruddha in, and Aniruddha was just, no, he didn't want to. So the devotee came back and he said, "Oh, Aniruddha is reluctant to come in." Prabhupada, "You do not understand. He may come inside. There is no difficulty." So Aniruddha came in quite sheepishly and stood before Srila Prabhupada with his hands folded in pranams. And Srila Prabhupada made him sit. We were all sitting on the floor, including Satsarupa Maharaj. And Prabhupada made Aniruddha sit on the seat next to him. And he was reluctant to do so, but Prabhupada insisted. They exchanged small talk for a minute or 2 minutes. And then Srila Prabhupada looked at us and he said, "In Los Angeles Temple, he is the beginning." And I just went, yes. Because Srila Prabhupada was, in other words, he was saying whatever, like Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. He didn't want to hear about any fault there was in a devotee's behavior, even if there were some. He only wanted to hear what service that devotee had performed for Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada, at least for me, underlined that. And I remember after Aniruddha passed away of a heart attack, whatever it was, 20 years or so ago, I shared that story on one of those internet websites that we had back then. And devotees from Honolulu wrote me to tell me that Aniruddha had also shared that story. And I just thought, it made my heart sing, because I thought, oh, Aniruddha noticed. Okay, thank you. Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. 11 o'clock, let us meet again to memorialize His Holiness Bhadrinarayan Swami. Hare Krishna.